name's Maria. This is Lily. She's a 4-year-old lab mix. So conditioning the clicker has two goals. The first goal is to get the animal used to the clicking noise and to not be frightened. And the second goal is for the animal to associate the clicking sound with a reward. So every time the click sounds, Lily is immediately rewarded. So this uses positive reinforcement as each time the click, which is the secondary reinforcer, is heard, and the reward, which is the primary reinforcer, follows. So the goal is to train Lily that each time she hears a click, she knows that she is doing the desired behavior and a reward will follow. So to condition Lily to the clicker, I just started by clicking, rewarding. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that now. So for the next behavior is the free shaping. So free shaping is when you wait for the animal to initiate behavior themselves and then you reward them for that behavior because it is a behavior that you want to encourage. So it is a great confidence builder in an animal because they are initiating a behavior and being rewarded for their own actions. So Lily has a very useful free shaping behavior in which most people would appreciate. So I noticed in our first training session that the majority of the time when I would walk and stop, she would automatically sit whenever I stopped. So I decided to free shape that behavior because I wasn't asking her to sit, and this behavior would be great for some of our other behaviors to be trained. So I'll now show you this behavior. So adding a cue to a behavior that you either add a verbal or a non-verbal, such as a hand signal to establish a behavior. So for Lily, I first started adding a non-verbal cue for sit. Once we had the non-verbal for sit, then I added the verbal sit command. I did this by giving her a non-verbal sit command multiple times so that she could predict that she was to sit. Then I gave the verbal command sit before I gave the non-verbal cue. I did this a few times and then I would say sit and wait for her to offer the sit until she associated the word sit with the sitting. So I will show you the verbal and the non-verbal cues for sit. Sit. Command was just saying the word sit. So partial reinforcement means that you do not continuously reward a behavior, but you do it after a certain interval or ratio of time. So for Lily, the partial reinforcement schedule is that she had to perform 2 behaviors and be reinforced only after completing the second behavior. So no praise, petting, rewarding between the behaviors. So the partial reinforcement behavior for Lily was sit, high five combination. So she was first asked to sit and then asked to give a high five. After she gives a high five, then she is rewarded. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that now. Sit, high five. Here. Sit, high five. So targeting means when you train an animal to touch a specific object with a body part. So this could be using their nose to touch a stick or their paw to touch an object. For Lily, I taught her how to target a small lid with the objective to be eventually move the target to get her to do a high five behavior. We began this behavior with her being clicked, rewarded for just looking at the lid. Then she was rewarded for touching it with her paw. Next, I eventually moved up the target to the high five position, and she was rewarded for touching the target for the high five. So after a bit, I was able to move the lid and add the verbal and nonverbal command for high five. Sit. So the next behavior that we're going to be working on is the extinction behavior. So first I'm going to define extinction, DRA, and OCC. So extinction is not rewarding an undesired behavior. It's the behavior disappears because it's not being reinforced. DRA stands for differential reinforcement of alternate behaviors. This means that you reinforce for the alternate behavior. The behavior that is reinforced is repeated and the unwanted behavior becomes extinguished. And OCC stands for operant counter conditioning. So it's when you train an alternate incompatible behavior and the animal learns to association with being rewarded for doing the alternate behavior. So for Lili, the behavior that we wanted to make extinct was pulling on the leash when she was walking. The alternate behavior that we prefer is the loose leash walking. So I began to train with her by starting on a walk. Then the minute she would start pulling, I would stop, guide her back to my side, and then once she was back by my side, I would click and reward so that she would associate it with the reward for this alternate behavior. We've only been working on this for like a week or two, and it has been a hard habit to break, but we just continued working on it. So I will go ahead and show an example of kind of what we've been doing. Sorry I had to move locations. I just wanted to give her a little bit more room to walk, but we're going to go ahead and get started with the extinction behavior. Come on, Lili. So the next behavior I'm doing is the generalized behavior. Generalizing means that an animal produces the desired behavior in various environments, settings, conditions, different from the original environment. For Lili, I chose sit and high five as her generalized behaviors. I know these are behaviors that she likes to perform, so generalizing was not very difficult. I started by moving from the living room to the backyard for the initial distraction. It took a few tries and a lot of patience, but she generalized both behaviors in the backyard. So now I can ask her the behaviors and she will provide the desired results. So I figured while I was out here, I might as well go ahead and do the generalized behaviors. So I'm going to ask for her to sit and then give me a high five. Lili, sit. High five. Sit. High five. Okay, so desensitizing is to diminish an emotional response to a negative sensor after repeated exposure to it. Counter conditioning means that to counter the negative response by changing the pet's emotional response, feelings, or attitude toward the negative stressor. So classical counter conditioning means that we provide a reward as the counter this negative trigger happens, animal gets food. For Lili, Lili was afraid of trash bags, so whenever she saw a trash bag, she would be frightened and run to hide. To help diminish this behavior, I would sit next to her while my mom got a trash bag and gave her treats. We eventually got where she could not run and hide, but actually stay in the same room with the bag. So my mom will walk over and get a trash bag now, and after she gets the trash bag out, then I will go ahead and start rewarding Lili for staying near me and not being scared.